Hello, everybody, and welcome to our first monthly surprise that we prepared for our subscribers to Dropsmith. And who better to start with than one of the most recognized authority figures in essential oil chemistry, my dear, awesome friend and colleague, Dr. Joy Bowles. And today we will talk about synergy. This is a question that has been popping up very often. And Joy is preparing this exact topic in the next 2 months on her aromatherapy journal club. So you can continue this with her, this conversation. So welcome, Joy.
Thank you, Melanie. What a delight to speak to you again. I just realized that my thing is probably buried and you can't hear me. I don't know. There you go. The miracles of technology. Yeah, no, it's been a while since we've spoken to each other, Melanie, and I'm sorry for that. But, it's just life gets very busy and COVID and blah, blah, I mean, but it's so nice to see you again and you're looking so well. It's great.
Thank you. Likewise. It's always a pleasure and fun and mind-blowing information. So today we're going to talk about synergy, and the two things that I always look at, and this is my point of view, is synergy within a single essential oil and then taking that to the synergy of the blend. And which brings more to this dynamic is the synergy of the properties, for example, clinical effect, or what our goal is in how to assist a person, and then versus the synergy of the aroma, which sometimes can be very different when you're blending for one thing and another. But both are very much connected to the chemical composition, and that's where you come in.
Thank you. Yes. So what's the question? What's the first question?
So the first and the most common question is, what percentage of the component is significant for the clinical effect? This is something that everybody asks, and I answer as well, but it's very hard to answer. So as you are the master of chemistry, I think it will be good to hear it from you.
So the percentage question.
Yes.
So for example, let's take the very old favorite, lavender.
Yes.
And its two major components, linalool and linalool acetate.
Yes.
Now, they are the major components of lavender, and I forget the exact percentages. It's something at least 37% of one of them and 42% of the other, or something like that.
It's around
that presumably is enough in lavender oil for lavender oil to do what it does. Question comes then, well, what if we had bergamot oil that had the same amount of linalool and linalool acetate, but it had all of its other sort of citrusy type things like the limonene and a couple of the other monoterpenes, and of course the bergaptan in its low percentage? Would you expect the bergamot oil to be as sedative as the lavender because it has the same percentage as linalool and linalool acetate, if those are truly the active ingredients in lavender?
I will jump in here for a second to make sure that you're following what we are talking about. This is quite important and frequent question, so I'd like you to get the most out of it. If you log into your Dropsmith account and click on any lavender, you will see in the detailed report area the chemical components. So what we are talking about now is the two major chemical components, linalool and linalool acetate, and how they may or may not affect the properties of lavender. So linalool is a monoterpene alcohol, so you can click on it and see all the references we have for it, all the properties that are scientifically proven. And the one we're talking about today is, let me scroll down, it's a long list, is sedative. Here we go. So it has sedative properties, which aligns really nicely with its ester, monoterpene ester property of linalool acetate. So again, you can click here and you will see that sedative is one of the properties that are attached to this chemical component. The next thing she is then considering and talking about is the percentage. If bergamot has a similar percentage or any other essential oil of these two major components, does it act similarly? So let's take a look. Here we have linalool acetate at 38%, a bit more, and linalool at 25%. So if we go to our catalog and we filter for these two components at a similar ratio, so I will look for linalool. Here we go. And I will put it at 20%. So 20% is similar because also lavenders between them are not the same. But we are looking for a specific combination. So linalool acetate. Here it is. And here I will put a little bit more, let's say 30%, because that was about the ratio that we are talking about. Here we go. And you will see now we have around 28 oils that are with that ratio, minimum ratio. It can be more than that. So they have at least 20%, of linalool and at least 30% of linalool acetate. So they could have more. And as you see, there are plenty of lavenders, but petite grain comes into this category as well. You will see clary sage comes at this ratio, interesting bergamot mint. And then if we scroll down, we will find one bergamot that has that high content of this combination linalool and linalool acetate. So let's look at bergamot. And now this is what Joy is getting at. She's looking at ratios between these monoterpene esters and monoterpene alcohol, the specific ones. So if we look at the chemical components of this particular bergamot, so it does have the similar amount. Here we go, linalool at 28%, and then esters, let's take a look at esters, linalool acetate at 33%. It is quite similar. So we are arguing here now, will that be enough to have the sedative effect that has lavender as well? What we're also talking about is this tiny bit of burbactin. How does that affect bergamot? So let's go back to Joy and see how this unwinds.
And I'm tempted to say, well, of course, naturally, but that would be all too easy. The truth actually is, I don't know. Sorry to say that up front on this whole question. But if you think about it, with bergamot oil, which I've chosen deliberately as an example to compare, because they do have very similar levels of linalool, at least, and linalool acetate, not quite so much in the bergamot, but the constituents, the minor constituents in the bergamot, the bergaptins and so on, they have quite different properties than what's found in the lavender. And even though they're minor percentages, I would suggest that they do contribute somewhat to the sort of euphoric nature of the bergamot, which lavender doesn't quite have that same euphoric uplift, as far as I'm aware. I don't know. I mean, I'm not saying for sure that bergamot, the bergaptin, is that euphoric uplift, but it is the key deliciousness aroma in bergamot for me, anyway. And I've had the chance to smell bergaptin that's been extracted from the bergamot oil, because you know how you have bergaptin free oil. Well, they've got to do something with all that bergaptin, don't they?
Yes.
And
give it to us to smell it.
Yeah, that's right. So I was lucky enough to get a tiny little sample, and it was very dark green in color. And it actually ate through the lid of the bottle, so I don't have it anymore. So that says to me it's actually a very strong and probably quite potent ingredient, but at such a small percentage in the bergamot oil, it's able to express itself, in that lovely sort of refreshing, uplifting aroma that it gives to bergamot that lavender doesn't have, because it doesn't have that.
Absolutely, and that brings to the dynamics and to the second question. which is, what is that significant percentage? That intriguing answer we'll get in the next video. I hope you enjoyed it, and until next time, I invite you to play with this information, to look for yourself, and to compare them. So log in your Dropsmith account, go to Advanced Filter, search for oils that have over 30% of vinyl acetate and over 20% of linalool, or any other ratio that you find useful. Filter it, and then I encourage you to compare them to really understand these oils you're working with. You can take, for example, lavender as your base point, but then compare it to lavandin. Compare it to other things like clary sage that has this interesting ratio, bergamot mint, to see what these chemical components bring to the equation. And the best way to understand your oils is to compare them. So you can compare everything with these oils that are similar in their major constituents. So you can compare their properties and look at that here. All three of these essential oils have been researched to be effective as antidepressant. Anxiolytic twice. So there's plenty of things that come across that are similar. You might have new insights on how to use these essential oils. Of course, chemistry directly affects our safety recommendations and how we use these oils. So as a takeaway, I invite you to compare the major constituents. In this video, we talked about linalool. Of course, click on it and learn more about linalool. Look at all the references that we are constantly updating, by the way. And then today we talked about also this beautiful ester, linalool acetate. I hope this was useful for you. I hope it brought value and inspired you to play with your Dropsmith. Until next time, stay tuned and we will continue this conversation very, very soon. Let me know what you thought about this video and would you like to hear more. Thank you and have a lovely day ahead. Bye.